Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well and keeping safe from COVID and other illness. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this third conversation on gender and climate change in Africa. These conversations are hosted by the Inclusive Climate Change Adaptation for Sustainable Africa. My name is Dr. Mary Nyasimi, and I'm the director of ICCASA, and I welcome you all to actively participate in these conversations. I would like to politely remind you that the conversations are being recorded, and we are also streaming these conversations on our ICCASA Facebook page, as well as the ICCASA YouTube channel. We also encourage you to tweet this conversation using the hashtag Gender and Climate Change Conversations. Please type, as we are having our guest speaker today, I would also encourage you to type your comments, your suggestions, your views on the topic today on the chat box. And some of the questions will be answered by our guest speaker, who is Ms. Nancy Rapando, who will be our guest speaker, as I said, and she'll be engaging us on a topic titled Inclusive Multistakeholder Platforms as an Avenue for Gendered Planning and Implementation of Climate Actions. As a brief, Ms. Nancy Rapando is a multi-stakeholder processor, facilitator, with an interest in ensuring convergence of diverse minds towards environmental sustainable agriculture. She's also an agriculture and natural resource manager specialist, and has worked with diverse organizations in East and Central Africa on policies and programs in areas of sustainable agriculture, food security, livelihoods, and natural resource management, as well as climate change. Ms. Rapando has also worked for diverse institutions such as Biovision, Solidaridad, CIDA, that is the Swedish one, UKAID, and USAID, among others. Ms. Rapando is currently a PhD candidate at the Institute of Climate Change and Adaptation at the University of Nairobi. And our research focus is mainly on policy frameworks for scaling up climate smart agriculture interventions in Kenya. Welcome, Ms. Rapando. Ms. Rapando, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Welcome, please.
The PACTA team and the Climate Smart Youth Network Kenya for allowing us to start engaging on these key aspects of gender inclusivity in the implementation of climate action. Inclusive multi-stakeholder, the different actors who are affected. And in the discussion, no one is left behind, and that
talk to her. Nancy Rapando, Nancy?
Yes.
Miss Nancy Rapando?
Yes.
Your audio is not very good. Could you please start again? Nancy?
Yes, I can hear you. I want to request to stop my video so that I improve on my own.
Okay, thank you. That is fine. Thank you.
Now audible, and today's topic is on inclusive multi-stakeholder platforms as an avenue for gendered implementation of climate actions. And in terms of the gender discussions, I think when you talk about inclusivity, is ensuring that no one is left behind. Multi-stakeholder platforms were initially used in in natural resource governance, and mainly they were meant to bring different resource users, those who had interest in the resources together, but they're now being looked at as a key avenue through which climate action can be scaled up, because climate change tends to affect people differently. That it is a good way of bringing different stakeholders together and engaging on issues of climate change. Can slide, please? Can we move to the next slide, please, if you can hear me?
Nancy, the slides are moving.
Okay, I think it is on my side where they are quite static. And okay, that slide is actually all about why we need the multi-stakeholder platforms for inclusive climate action. And I think you're moving faster than me, so I need to use my slide system rather than your slide system. Can we go back to this first slide, please? Yeah, what is the motivation? Why do we need to be part of multi-stakeholder platforms? I got a quote from Fraser, and Fraser actually spaces for engagement. Differentiated, but also together different stakeholders to engage. And I've said it is a way of engaging different the multi-stakeholder platform, mainstream inclusivity, and are there any risks and guidelines? So okay, Mary, can you hear me?
Nancy, you keep breaking up. Nancy, you keep breaking up. Nancy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I'm told that I'm breaking up, so I don't know what to do. I think network is not stable, but when it gets worse, no, so that I repeat what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Noted. Nancy, we can't hear you.
Okay, thank you. I was actually finding out if I'm clear, Mary. Am I clear? Can I continue?
Yes, please do.
Value of a stakeholder in a multi-stakeholder. Multi-stakeholder platform is made up of different actors, as I've said. We could have like private sector, we would have research actors from the CSOs and the community. But the added the platform as protectors. And these are very critical when you're talking about inclusive marginalized. So very critical that when you are developing a multi-stakeholder platform and you could also act
Nancy, we have totally lost you. Nancy, we can't hear you. Nancy? Okay. Our participant, Nancy, is requesting for 2 minutes. I think she wants to restart her internet. So please, let's be patient with her. Nancy, are you back? Nancy, are you back?
Okay, Mary, can you now hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
The problem is with time again, it will have dropped, so I can't tell what's happening to the system. I think I was talking about the role that different actors have in a multi-stakeholder platform. And I said that you could play a role of a protector, and a protector is one who comes in to defend the rights of the marginalized who might not even be able to be part of that space. You could also play a role of a facilitator, and a facilitator, like what ICCASA is doing today, they're giving a space for the open dialogue, facilitating different ideas to come up. So they act to ensure different actors bring in their ideas and have a dialogue. Another specific actor is a capacity strengthener. When you join a multi-stakeholder platform, you could notice capacity problems. For example, if you're joining a multi-stakeholder platform that has not yet done a climate risk analysis, you would come in to help carry out such a study and develop their capacity so that when they are developing climate actions, it is based on true evidence. And you could also act as a knowledge broker. A knowledge broker comes in to broker knowledge so that the different actors are able to share knowledge. Very critical in climate change because we have too much knowledge among the local communities, but we also have a lot of knowledge among the scientific communities. So bringing all this knowledge together requires a knowledge broker. Let's move to the next slide, please. The next slide, actually, we try to talk about mainstreaming inclusivity. Are there any benefits and dilemmas? Multiple actors, there could be unequal power dynamics. These are issues of inclusivity. Some people have more power than others. So we need to strike a balance between the inclusivity principles, We have people who come in to manage it. There are people who have more resources, and there are people who have more technical capacity. But we also have people who are having different interests. So why do we need the MS multi-stakeholder platforms to be inclusive? We need them to be effective so that they have optimal and ethical outcomes. They need to be legitimate. When they are known and when they are legitimate, they tend to scale up more of the climate actions. They tend to have more outcomes since people will have more buy-in, and they tend to be more long-lasting and sustainable. So when your multi-stakeholder platform is more inclusive, you tend to reap these three benefits of effectiveness, legitimacy, and sustainability. So please, let's move to the next slide, please. To use a multi-stakeholder platform to steer climate action. Most of the time, it is right to do it when the problem is common and affecting many people who are willing to come together and talk about that problem. So it's necessary to there should be a clear theory of change for a multi-stakeholder platform. This, or else people will be disinterested when you try to just drive your own agenda. So your intentions must be very clear. So try to prioritize what is important rather than looking at what is just urgent. Look at what is important to all the stakeholders when you're setting up such a platform. Next slide, please. The next slide, actually, we talk about issues of inclusion. In terms of inclusion, there are always tendencies of overlooking actors and selecting those you feel will drive your agenda, and this most of the time leads to misrepresentation. Definitely, when we are setting up multi-stakeholder platforms, we tend to reach out to more people, but there is always reluctance because some of us, we don't know you, so we don't trust you. Why should we be together? And some of them are the first question you are asked when you bring money is there funding. From the beginning that MS are not a fundraising avenue alone. Engage, it's a place to bring people together. So how to do it, you need to have a transparent criteria of bringing stakeholders together. You need platform and some are not, so you need to be aware of that. You need to recognize those who are there, and then you need to really carry out a good participatory stakeholder mapping to understand who is being left out so that we really ensure they're being inclusive. Most important, because of some of the marginalized groups, whether women or marginalized communities, you need to help in building trust so that they are sure that that is their right place to engage, and there should also be a shared concern. So there should be something that is bringing them together. For example, if it is about a water problem that is being led by climate change, then that is a shared problem that you need to bring the different stakeholders together. The next slide, I would be talking about governance in terms of an MSP. A governance structure must be there. I just want to give an example of some of the multi-stakeholder platforms that have now emerged out of climate change. At the moment, we have the Climate Smart Agriculture multi-stakeholder platform in countries. We have the CSA alliances, and we also have some that are emerged at community level. For example, in Kenya, where we had the Climate Smart Villages, they represent a multi-stakeholder platform where different stakeholders are coming together to implement something. So how do we ensure that they're quite inclusive We need to have a shared vision. I talked about having very clear objectives, management mechanism. For example, when you look at the Climate Smart Agriculture platform for Kenya, whoever sits in the driving seat is a government representative from the climate change unit. So you are having like a honest broker who does not have high interest in any of what is going on. So how you manage it is very clear. Who is more powerful than the other, and how do you manage that power so that no one is being left behind? Of local ownership, even if it is being set up by international actors, how do you ensure that the locals own it? So that is why when you look at the multi-stakeholder platform on climate change, it's mostly locally owned because it is led by a national entity. Another critical aspect is around, it should act as a safe space, and maybe you need to see how you're integrating indigenous knowledge when you're doing that. People need to feel safe. People need that you are not exposing the information so much in a multi-stakeholder platform. They need to trust the system so that what they're sharing quite legitimate, and also if it has around setting agenda. Who sets the multi-stakeholder platform agenda? We've said it should have local ownership. So the agenda should be more of localized. Let's move to the next slide, please. The agenda should be more localized. It should not be driven by external actors. So it's very critical that we look into that. And as the last slide, I think it gives clear guidelines. You need to ensure accessibility. What language are you using? Identify capacity building needs. Build the capacity of the actors, and we need to ensure that the different stakeholders speak towards an issue using the same voice. So as a parting shot, on my last slide, we have the MSP cycle. Getting it? Participatory stakeholder mapping, bringing together stakeholders who have the same interest, have a management system who is going to be in the steering and to steer it. Then we have something around adaptive planning. You need to develop an action plan on how you're going. Did we meet the objectives? Is this what we wanted? Did we include everybody? This? Have we come up with the clear outcomes, and have we achieved them? And then we have what we call collaborative action planning. You have to develop a detailed action, secure resources and support, develop capacities for action. So what I believe is that, for example, if you are going through NDC development or climate action plans, when you work through a multi-stakeholder platform, there are clear responsibilities for different actors. Why do we do monitoring? Find out if actors did what they planned to do and what they've done. So I want to say that is what I can talk about multi-stakeholder platforms. I know most of you have used them. Most of you didn't know you're using them. But if they provided the best space for you to develop a climate agenda and ensure inclusivity of different actors, then that's the best thing that we can always use them for. So thank you, ICCASA team. I think that is, I'll stop there in terms of giving some short points, and sorry for the internet interruption. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. We really appreciate your presentation this afternoon. Though we did have issues with your connectivity, but I'm sure everybody is very appreciative of what you have been able to share with us. If somebody, I'm just going to allow 2 questions. If somebody has a burning questions for Ms. Nancy Rapando. If not, we'd like to go into discussions. And
hello.
So, hello?
Hi, Mary. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Oh, Priscilla, how are you?
I'm fine.
You have a question or a comment?
I have a comment.
Thank you.
I like the presentation, but I was hoping that you would talk about disaggregating the stakeholders. Yes, you talked about mapping of the stakeholders, but after mapping, there's the need for us to disaggregate them as well. Because when you talk about gender inclusivity, even within the female gender, they are not homogeneous. The way the girls, the younger girls were raising and will be free to discuss issues is different from when you put them together with the other ones. So we need to, when we are talking about gender inclusivity, gender mainstreaming, this nitty-gritty needs to be brought out very clearly so that at the end of the day, we don't lose out the critical stakeholders that we might be targeting. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Priscilla Chapa. That's a very great insight. I would like to draw your attention to the chat box. Mushana Ivana has provided a link to an example of a community engagement and conservation alleviation. I think it's a multi-stakeholder platform also that is involved in conservation and poverty alleviation. So if you have a time, please click on that link and be able to see other examples of multi-stakeholder platforms out there. Anybody else wants to contribute? Can I give the chance to Chris Imana? Chris? Chris Imana? Okay. Probably Chris is not able to speak. That's okay. Probably start off the conversation as well as what Priscilla has actually highlighted, that we need to engage everyone. I would like to draw your attention to the NDCs that African countries are developing, and actually all the countries across the globe that have already developed or they are
I am able to speak. Like... Hello?
Okay. Yes, Chris, please go ahead.
No, mine was just a comment that MSP is a new approach to an area where I come from, and I'm glad and very impressed by the way Nancy has presented, because it's presented it in such a way that it's going to be practical and applicable to rural communities, especially where I come from. It's just a comment.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Anybody else who would like to comment, please raise up your hand or type in the chat box and I'll be able to give you an opportunity to speak. As I was saying, probably just to start the conversation here, as I said, African countries are writing their NDCs or revising their NDCs. That is the national determined contributions. So within this forum, does anybody have an example of how they engage multiple stakeholders to write up their first NDC or they're revising their second NDC? Do we have examples of where multi-stakeholders came together to write that? And the interests of all people, the women, the children, the girls, the people living with disabilities, the youth, the elderly were all consulted. Do we have examples? Ivan, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and I thank the presenter for the for the presentation so far. I have some model how we are trying to engage a multi-stakeholder platform to ensure we participate and address the climate justice issues. And I have been trying to upload this two-page document on this chat, but has failed. But if I can have just an email, I can then email this this document, then it can help. But however, to summarize the model, we adopt the Village Savings and Loan Association model, where we create conservation groups at village level and provide access to essential ecosystem services, especially tree seedlings, and capacity building trainings on better agricultural practices, because at the end of the day, we find farmers are the majority stewards of the environmental quality, and they are the owners of the land where every activity takes place. So if they are not enhanced, especially with capacity building, then they can and enable them participate, enable the platforms and their access to inputs to participate in conservation, then we shall be building on a temporary foundation. So I place a key emphasis on this farmer, this local farmer in a local village, because that's where conservation can start from. However, they will need to be linked up to other services and access to input, especially access to finance, because we cannot eliminate the issue of finance in the equation of conservation and climate change mitigation. So when we have formed these VSLOS, we integrate the savings and loan scheme. So we encourage them to do their own savings so they can access some, they can be enabled to access some money, and they are linked to locally available financial institutions to access soft loans so they can enhance their savings and perhaps access a reasonable amount of money to invest in better agricultural practices that address climate change at the same time. Then this also enables other key players to come in, because if members are organized in groups and someone can be attracted to support them easily compared to when they are disintegrated as individuals. So that's how we have done this one, and we are seeing some success. And if you can share just a contact email, I will share this 2-page document that summarizes the model, and I hope it can help. However, I want to thank you very much for this platform and for this opportunity. And again, to also encourage, always share different opportunities so that whoever is chanced can tap in and perhaps improve on the work they are doing at the local village level. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivan. That was a very great example of an MSP at the grassroots level. And you did request an email. My colleague has shared the email there, info@icasa-africa.org. Please send us any emails, or any documents or questions or queries. And particularly if you'd like to become a guest speaker in the upcoming conversations, you can also use that email to contact us. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have anybody else? Thank you, Evan. Do you have anybody else who'd like to speak or to contribute to the conversation?
Maybe a simple clarification. Is this info capital I?
Oh, sorry, no, it's small I.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Evan. Anybody else would like to contribute the conversation? Today we have a very quiet group. Hello. Hello, Elizabeth, would you like to speak? Elizabeth Wawire?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I really appreciated the conversation, although I joined in when the presenter had already presented. But just as from what my colleague has just said, I think the way to go is to initiate those activities at the grassroots levels and let them be funded, prioritized, funded, and actually implemented so that we can link up with these groups, with the microfinance institutions, and we can manage them and have a sustainability element. Because you realize that most of them, we come up, yes, with very good ideas like this one, but you see, we don't follow up, we don't prioritize it, or sometimes we just make it as a cross-cutting issue. And then that lacks the seriousness that we are supposed actually to have. And it makes us fail with most of the programs that we have or projects that we have so far. Hello?
Yes, Elizabeth.
Hello?
Yes, are you done?
Are you getting me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm done. I'll just say yes.
You are breaking up a little
Hello?
bit, but we are able to hear you.
Yes, today I'm having a network problem. I've changed several places, but I'm still
It's
linking up
understandable.
with.
Today is not a good day for everyone, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know why the other time it was so clear, but today I'm
Yes,
having a lot of breakouts. But actually, that is what I wanted to say is let us prioritize the activities. Let us not make them cross-cutting issues. That is my first sentiment. And the second thing part is as we prioritize them, if I let us budget for them, have done other multi-sectoral sectors and achieve together. Yes.
okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. I saw
Yes.
James Gitu. James Gitu. James Gitu, do you want to contribute? Looks today we are really having issues with connectivity. Juliet Mahoha. Juliet Makoha, do you want to contribute?
Sorry, I joined late. I had problems with the connectivity.
Juliet, we have lost you.
Me again. I'm saying
okay, now
that,
we can hear you.
Oh, I'm saying that the issues we are bringing out are very, very important. And I'm wondering how can we consolidate that so that we can use, if we can have the information in like in fact sheets, so that we can distribute out to those people who have not been able to be with us or to join us in the discussion from the time we started. Because not everybody is able to join through the network because of these technologies, depending on how the weather is. And because of climate change, many things are happening, and therefore people are not able to join and contribute. But otherwise, the issues we are bringing out are very, very, very important, and we can use across to everybody. And then we cannot just use it. You know you can't do it without funds. How do we get the funding to be able to disseminate this information out and sensitize more people? Thank you, my dear. Sorry, I came in late. I don't know whether I'm with you.
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Thank you, Juliet. Actually, something that you have said that is important is about a fact sheet. So I would actually request Ms. Nancy Rapando if she could develop a one-page document about MSPs, the multi-stakeholder platform, and how we can use it for gendered planning and implementation of climate change actions. That will be a great thing. Nancy, do you have anything else to add to that?
I think, Mary, that's fine. We can be able to develop a fact sheet and maybe also send out some of the guideline documents that have been developed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. I'm also being reminded by one of my colleagues that if you missed at the beginning of this conversation, please note it will be uploaded on ICCASA YouTube channel, so you can follow the whole conversation there as well. We are coming to a close of on our conversation. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Okay, Mary, I don't know if there is someone else, but I thought I would respond to some of the concerns that are being raised.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, I think I note two concerns in terms of governance and some of the catalyst, finance as a catalyst. I do agree. In terms of governance, there is a concern that governments are always quite bureaucratic. I'm not sure of that after having worked with the government team in implementing the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Platform. I think the government is there to facilitate actions, especially when you align well to their policy frameworks. For example, the Kenya, why the Kenya Climate Smart Agriculture Multi-Stakeholder Platform was critical is because in the policy frameworks, the Climate Smart implementation framework is very clear on developing platforms that bring stakeholders together, developing platforms that ensure align very well with the policy frameworks, then it becomes easy for the government to participate. And the beauty with these policy frameworks that it is quite open and it allows different stakeholders to come together and agree on the agenda they want to drive and not necessarily the government driving you. So it is possible, but where you see the government being too bureaucratic, you can also have a different stakeholder come in as a facilitator or a knowledge broker who can converge all of you together. The next thing is about finance as an that at least there should be finance, because we tend to develop a number of aspects, a number of ideas. Need resources to implement some of the good ideas that are coming up. So when you come together as a multi-stakeholder platform also, you tend to pull resources together towards one idea to be implemented. So it is good to know that finance is critical, but it is also good to know that MSPs can pull resources together that were being diverted into other directions and finance one idea. I would give a very good example of a multi-stakeholder platform in Kenya. It could be the Nairobi Water Fund that was developed by stakeholders. Different stakeholders came together and they were able to create the Nairobi Water Fund. The Water Fund still aligns very well with our climate action in ensuring there is access to water by different households who are being impacted by climate change. They do a lot of work on afforestation, which is quite linked to climate change. So let's look at MSPs in form of that very low grassroots mechanisms that Ivan talked about in terms of Village Saving and Loan Association, but also let's look at the national level platforms like the Water Fund, but also like the National Climate Smart Agriculture Platform. Is more of a capacity building and a knowledge brokerage platform. So there are different aspects that you can look at, and MSPs will always play different roles beyond finance. Thank you so much, Mary. I think those are the issues that I saw. And from this platform, we are willing to disseminate as much information as possible. Please reach out to us if you want to set up a platform, want to set it up at national or at local level. We can help you think through how you do it. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, thank you, Nancy, for offering to help countries, either at national level or at subnational level, to set up their multi-stakeholder platforms in climate change related issues. That's really great. I think we've come to the end of our conversation. There's a very important chat that has been posted by Gibson Kirago. I don't know if you will be able to share. Would you like to speak, Gibson? Gibson Kirago, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mary. I just want to say that there are some upcoming programs by all the 47 counties, and from the description and the speech by Nancy, the importance of having, because the counties are starting what they are calling county climate change funds, where they envisage the donors and stakeholders, private sector, the county government, some budgets from national government coming together to do some work on climate action all the way from at the world level, from the world level to the county level. This would be a very good forum where the MSP can be utilized. So that's my comment, because I've looked at some of their documents and I have not seen MSP mentioned in most of the county government legislations that they have produced. Thank you.
Thank you, Gibson. And Nancy, you can see there's an opportunity there for the Climate Smart Agriculture Multi-Stakeholder Platform. Thank you, everyone. This conversation is supposed to be 40 minutes, so we have run over by 5 minutes. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining us today on our third conversation. Our next conversation on gender and climate change talks in Africa will be on June 22nd at 3 p.m. East African time. And we'll have the pleasure of hosting Dr. Wafula, who will be sharing on a topic titled The Gender Climate Change Nexus and Policy Consideration for Sustainable Development. Finally, I would like to encourage whoever would like to be a guest speaker. And we are actually looking for speakers across Africa who would like to speak on these conversations and share with us insights. As Ms. Rapando said, this is a platform for different stakeholders, government officials, CBOs, NGOs, private sector, to come and dialogue on issues affecting gender and climate change across Africa. My colleague there posted our email address, so please do send us information if you'd like to become a speaker. On behalf of my colleagues, Faith Gikunda and Tabitha Muchaba, I thank everyone and hope to see you in 2 weeks' time on June 22nd. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mary.
Cheers.
Bye-bye, Gibson.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nancy.
Cheers.
Nancy, my classmate. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mary. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Juliet. See you on the 22nd. Ivan, we actually encourage you to share with us your experience at grassroots level.
Oh, thank you very much. I will be in touch.
Please do.
Nancy. Oh, man, na watu wanasikia.